Research shows that court-involved youth need many services and opportunities to be successful, and probation's role is to provide that success for the youth that we serve. For the Orange County Probation Department in 2009, we implemented the Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative. This provided us the ability to start with the front door into our system. We developed a risk assessment instrument to ensure that we were booking the appropriate kids, enhancing services for our diversion youth, and most importantly, enhancing our engagement with our parents. They are the key to the success for the youth, is to make sure that they're educated, informed, and empowered. With the statewide juvenile justice funding and realignment, allowed probation department in Orange County to implement the juvenile detention alternatives. This provided us the ability to have a risk needs assessment for kids being booked, making sure we book the appropriate youth, and more importantly, enhance all services for youth, especially for our parents, and the engagement with parents is key to the success for the youth. Our initial results were we used to book every child that came into the juvenile facilities and worked with the court to determine appropriate disposition. Now we only book for 2 reasons: for public safety and inability or unwillingness to go to court. This provided us the ability to have 50% reduction in our detention youth population. The Decade in Progress Summit is so important for all of our stakeholders to attend, not only to highlight what probation is doing, as probation is the entry point for all juveniles into the juvenile justice system, but more importantly, provides the opportunity to determine what is working and what is not working for our youth across the state, and make sure that we replicate to do the best we can for the youths we serve.
In Riverside County, we had a population of youth that had a history of failing out-of-home placements and eventually ending up in state facilities. And what SB 81 did, the Juvenile Realignment did, was really provide resources to allow us to keep those youth local. We actually treat those youth in our Youth Training and Education Center, where they receive a extensive amount of services and programs at the local level rather than in a state facility. Sure, one of the things is we just opened a brand new 106-bed secure treatment facility with SB 81 dollars. We just populated that facility in August of this year. And one of the most exciting things about that facility is we included a 16-bed transitional living unit, so that when our youth are finished a regular program and they don't have an adequate home environment to return to, or a community that's problematic to be successful in, they can remain with us in that transitional living environment. They can go to school in the community. Many of them will go to junior college in the community. They can be employed in the community. We can start to plug them in, engage them, plug them into services in the community, but they still have a place to return every day and check in with, and we're able to develop a comprehensive transitional plan that allows them to be more successful once they are released from our facility. Every agency that comprises the criminal justice system has its role to play. You have law enforcement agencies that go out and enforce laws and make arrests. You have sheriff's departments that they run our jail system. You have a district attorney's office that's responsible for prosecuting offenders. You have the public defender's office that's there to protect individuals' due process rights. And our courts is where justice happens. In the end, when an individual has gone through all of those other pieces of the system, many times they're left to the probation department thereafter. And probation's role is unique. If I was to sum up our role, it really is to change lives. And that's the business that we're in. And the programs, the services, our approach to our clients is really all geared towards changing that person's life and affording them the opportunities and the possibilities and the tools and the skill sets that they need to be successful members of our communities.
Realignment is really important to California because in the year 2000, we had over 10,000 kids in what was known as the California Youth Authority. We are now down to approximately 600 kids. The funding allocated to each county was targeted to evidence-based programs and practices to offset the flow of children going into incarcerated facilities. We have done an excellent job with that, and we're all better, and we have a safer community for it. The SB $81 in Marin, which I'm much more proud of how it was allocated, was relative to our mental health practices. We have really targeted trauma-informed care and treatment. Children who have undergone trauma in their lives are more susceptible to harming themselves and later being diagnosed with a significant mental illness. We have invested in that area early on to attack those problems early so we can they're not incarcerated. I'm most proud of how we work well in Marin with the kids relative to the preventative measures, truancy, getting with kids and working with schools who are identified at risk, even helping them get to school. Offering counseling, mental health practitioners are available to them. And so those are some of the upfront issues that we like to take care of so they don't end up in the criminal justice system. It's important to attend this conference because as I'm very proud of what probation has accomplished over the last decade, criminal justice is a team game. And if we all can appreciate each other's responsibilities in the criminal justice system and all understand how we change behavior, we're all going to be better for it and have a safer community.
One of the main benefits of realignment is the fact that local decisions and resources were pushed to the local level rather than at the state level, and that youth could tap into and probation departments could take advantage of the social networks that exist and community resources to better serve these youth rather than shipping them to other parts of California. Well, I would say some of the benefits of having the realignment dollars largely around implementing wraparound services, putting all those supports around kids who find themselves in difficulties, and again being able to assist them, whether it's with counseling, educational supports, financial supports, but being there and using the modalities, treatment modalities that are most effective in helping them change their behavior and correct their behavior. Without the benefit of juvenile justice realignment, we would not have access to wraparound services and the resources necessary to do that successfully. And also with long-term programming that we were able to implement in juvenile halls and at the camp. That provided a different venue in which treatment, counseling, education could be delivered, again, rather than sending kids away to other state facilities. I think many of the things that we do that came about because of realignment, building capacity of our staff so they understood what wraparound services were, how to tap into and develop capacity in the community, whether it was counseling, collaborating with our health department, human services departments to provide more resources in the form of counseling, education, different parenting programs available to kids, and again, being able to provide mentors and connecting them with caring adults in the community that we know are more effective in breaking the cycle of delinquency. And then working more effectively with the parents and offering parenting programs and, for example, functional family therapy, where we have the entire family engaged in a counseling process. So the parents can better understand their kids' behavior, and the kids can better understand what the parents are trying to do. I think largely because Juvenile Justice Realignment allowed local communities to engage kids and families in more productive ways, that we could experiment with and test innovative approaches, whether they are counseling from an educational standpoint, and to adopt a strength-based approach, really tapping into the strengths that youth bring, that their families possess, and that exist in the community, and connect kids with those, or rather reconnect them, right? Because those connections are broken often, and that's what contributes to delinquency. I'm really proud of the fact that we also put a Boys and Girls Club in our juvenile hall, and that's part of the long-term programming and incentives that we have available.
I think realignment has made a profound change in California's justice system. It keeps kids closer to home, closer to their families. It keeps their families involved. The whole idea of kind of shipping someone away for them to get better and then come back and rejoin the tribe has been, pretty much proven to be ineffective. We've certainly found it to be ineffective. So I think it's made a profound change.
Yeah.
Realignment has given us resources that we never had before, and it has allowed us to do things like enroll youth in college, get them books, get them tutors, extremely important. Again, most 18, 19-year-olds in college have all kinds of extra help, and our kids often don't. And so, especially on the educational front, we've been able to make a lot of progress. Definitely what makes me the most proud in our department is how focused we are on working within the family structure. So we don't work just with youth and then with their families separately. We work with them all together, we work with them separately, we really listen to what they want. We do what they want as much as possible, and when it also protects community safety, and we're finding just phenomenal results as a result of doing it that way. When we talk about the results that we're seeing more kind of whole, well people in our communities, and that's what we count as success. So really people thriving, not just surviving. So having jobs, being educated or getting an education, having a health home, contributing to society, not recidivating, but not using just not recidivating as the one metric, but using all the metrics of what kind of things are they doing to help as opposed to harm their own communities. I think probation is so successful because we're really nimble. We're nimble, I think we're creative, we're educated, we I think have more staying power oftentimes than other law enforcement agencies. So less turnover, more people promoting from within and staying with the agency for a long time. But I think the fact we can be nimble, we can switch directions fairly quickly, and we embrace change and we embrace the current research just kind of puts us out in the lead. So I think coming to this conference is really, really important. I think for legislators especially, decision makers, people on board of supervisors, people making decisions about where funding goes, because this reform was the was kind of the cornerstone of every reform that has occurred since then. And to not go back and look at it and really look at the outcomes and examine them and celebrate them, I think it's important in order to have more assurance in what we're doing now, and to know that what we're doing now is right and that it's going to work the same as this has worked.
I think it was important because they had YLBG, the Youth Offender Block Grants, and all these funds that we could do innovative things for the youth. And so we did a lot of innovative things with the youth, such as we would do parenting classes. We sent probation officers to parenting classes to work with the parents a little more, to reunite with their youth and try to get them on track. A lot of parents don't know what to do with their youth. They're at a loss because they're afraid of them at times, and they're afraid of what to do. So we've taught the parents on what they can do and how they can help their children function and be better citizens and better, family members. Yolo County, we started a new program. We actually got a CSAC award for this program. It's Youth Construction Grant. And what we're doing in Yolo County, we have the youth go to class from 8 to noon, and then after class we teach them a trade, such as construction, carpentry, metalwork. So the kids like this program because they're able to learn a trade, and they're able to have hope and have a future and learn a skill that will help them make money and earn and provide for their family, and they actually have a great attitude, thinking, hey, I can be successful in life and I can become somebody important. So it really gives them a sense of belonging, that they can be somebody and they can earn money and they can be successful. What makes me most proud is we're learning that getting the families together with the youth and working not just on the youth, but working on the families is more of a success than it ever has been. We spend a lot of time and money in the past on the kids alone, and we'd send them to group homes, and then they'd come back with this great skill and knowledge, but they're really unable to put those skills and knowledge to use because they had friends and influences. But what we've learned is that if you help the family understand those influences and those friends and help them be on your side, and help the youth, teach the youth that they can rely on their parents, they can rely on their siblings, they can go to help, they can have mentors. There's a lot of people out there that are pulling for them to be successful. And once you open that up, that's where I'm really excited and happy to see that YOLO has really progressed in opening up volunteers and mentors and having families really be more of a contribution than they ever have been in the past. We're very unique because we're skilled. We're skilled in helping change behavior. We're skilled in protecting the public. So we have a twofold mission in protecting the public, but also changing behavior. There's not another agency out there that does that, changing behavior and protecting the public. A lot of people don't understand what we do. They have an idea of what we do, but they really don't know the depth of what we do with the youth and the families and the skills and the abilities that we have a lot of talent out there that are able to work with the youth and teach them to change their behavior and to really change lives. And that's what it's all about, is changing lives. And so that's why I would encourage them to come and see how we can change lives. And they could also use this in with their own families.
I believe juvenile realignment was important to California for two reasons. One, fiscally, the state was drowning in its in the institutionalization of juveniles. Secondly, I think we were doing a disservice to the juveniles because we weren't taking care of the problem. We weren't dealing with the issues at the local level. We were sending them to the state and getting a worse product in return. SB $81 allowed Madera County specifically to create a correctional academy, which gave us a program at the local level to prevent kids from being sent to group homes, preventing kids from being sent to the state. So we were able to keep them at the local level, provide those services to prevent them to going to other places. I'm most proud of my department for the feedback that we get from the families, from our collaborative partners, whether it's in criminal justice or in the social service side. They finally recognize that probation is the linchpin of the criminal justice system. And I think that's what I'm most proud of, is that we receive that feedback from the community about what a good job we're doing with the kids. Oh, I believe probation, what makes probation unique in the criminal justice system is that we have our hands in everything, and not in a bad way. We're involved with all these other different agencies, whether it's law enforcement, social services, schools, everybody. Probation is kind of the nucleus of the criminal justice system, whether it's juveniles or adults. And I think our role in the criminal justice system has expanded tenfold in the last 20 years.
What makes probation unique in the system statewide or even in the local system is the uniqueness of the job, just all the variety of things that we have to do. I knew that I didn't want to get in traditional law enforcement, or I didn't want to get in traditional social work, but what was really unique about the profession to me and what really got me involved is you get to do so many different things. You get to be a law enforcement officer at times and a social worker at other times, but you also get to be a surrogate parent, and you get to be an educator, you get to be a mentor. And I love the variety of things you get to do in probation, and that's what kept me involved for so long. The reason why juvenile realignment was so important in California, and I'll start going back a little ways. I was involved in the design and construction of our juvenile justice facility, which in 1999 we were awarded a grant. We completed construction in 2003, and when we were designing the facility in the late 90s, juvenile crime was through the roof, and we were looking at population trends in our county versus what crime rates we're looking at, and we designed a facility for 420 youth, and that included pre-adjudication, post-adjudication. So the landscape looked a lot different in the late 90s, and since then it's done the exact opposite, and which has been a really interesting process, because now we're looking at ways to repurpose our facilities because we have all of this extra space now. And I've been proud just to have been in the profession and coming up ways that we can manage kids in the community with better outcomes, and I think that's been one of the most important things, and one of the proudest things that I've been involved in is the fact that we're looking at keeping kids in their neighborhoods and in their communities, and utilizing our natural partners, our CBOs, our faith-based community, our law enforcement partners, just a variety of folks to help be the solution to juvenile delinquency, and I think we're starting to see some really, really good outcomes as a result. But one of the things that we've done locally in Ventura County is we really looked at the population, the profile of the youth that's coming to juvenile hall. And we've been drilling down and developing some good data systems and building our data infrastructure so that way we can capture some of the data that profiles the type of the youth that we're getting, where they're coming from, why they're coming, and then with that data, just really targeting interventions in the community to prevent kids from going further into the system. Some of the money we've used is to develop good community-based programs, one of which I'll highlight right now. It's our Evening Reporting Center that we partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Oxnard in Port Hueneme. And we put an Evening Reporting Center, which is really an after-school structured program with caring adults, and we refer kids to this particular program rather than them having to go to court on violations of probation. And we asked them to participate in this Evening Reporting Center for anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week. And we've seen some really, really good outcomes. Kids get hooked into natural supports that exist in the community, such as Boys and Girls Club programming that has existed well before we got involved with this particular youth. And the idea is, by participating in that particular program, by participating in good community-based programs, that will be the hook in getting youth to participate on their own. And we've had 80% of the kids that have completed that amount of time that we've asked them to participate in that program have voluntarily continued in the program on their own. And that's really what we're trying to do. I think oftentimes we turn on the TV and we see something that's happening in the local news and we come up with an opinion of how things are being done across the state or across the nation. But what's great about this particular conference is that we want to highlight what we've done here locally. Things and experiences and programs that have been developed statewide that are working. I think somebody who attends this conference will see that there's a lot of hope and we're headed in a really good direction when it comes to juvenile justice in California. And somebody that would, after attending this conference, will walk away and believe that we are headed in the right direction. Things are working really, really well, and we anticipate continuing on this positive path for the next 10 years. It'll be exciting. I may not be around in another 10 years, but it'll be very, very exciting to see where we're at 10 years from now. I'm excited about it, and I hope people who attend this conference will be as well.
Well, primarily because it gave counties and by extension local communities an opportunity to develop programs as an alternative to placement in correctional facilities or in other types of institutional situations. And the advent of those resources has produced local alternatives that result in young people being treated in their own communities in non-secure settings where outcomes are, through our data collection efforts, better. When we treat kids locally, as opposed to sending them 400 or 500 miles to state institutions or out-of-home placement, we're able to work more closely with families, with the educational systems that these young people have grown up in, with the faith-based community. All of the resources that you typically find at the local level are brought to bear, and the outcomes have proven to be better. Prior to Juvenile Justice Realignment, SB 81, a number of kids were being sent to state institutions. And now those young people, for example, are being placed in a very robust and comprehensive after-school and home monitoring program. The county contracts with a private provider, and our probation officers are assigned to assist in the supervision of those youth. They're not locked up. They report to a day reporting center, an evening reporting center. They receive education, recreation, counseling, drug and alcohol education, and any number of efforts that help them remain in the community and become more productive citizens. The idea that we've become more family focused, that we are looking at local solutions to address juvenile crime, and that we are engaging an increasing array of individuals and agencies to help us with that effort.
In Stanislaus County, Juvenile Justice Realignment was extremely critical. It allowed us to leverage state funds through SB 81 to open up and actually develop and build a 60-bed commitment facility. At the time, we were the largest county that did not have a separate commitment facility outside of their juvenile hall. So SB 81 allowed us to construct that facility. It allowed us to work with the youth that would have otherwise have gone to Department of Juvenile Justice. Having that facility locally in Stanislaus County allowed us to keep those minors and those youth that were otherwise going to DJJ now kept here within our county. And with that, with our new facility, we created and built and designed a culinary room, a culinary classroom, which actually gives those kids that are staying with us, the long-term kids, a skill when they're released that they can actually look for employment and they have the skills to get that job when they can. When the youth are released from our facility, having a culinary program and other evidence-based programming and other programs that we have within our commitment facility gives them a leg up to actually do better when they're on the outside, much better than when they came in. So it gives them a marketing skill and a marketing tool to go out there and obtain that job and be successful while they're on the outside. So being the chief of Stanislaus County, one of the things I'm most proud of, especially when it comes down to working with the youth locally, is we designed this reintegration program that we didn't have prior to Juvenile Justice Realignment. We get all of the partners together with the youth and the youth's parents and really create a comprehensive plan and a warm handoff from custody to the community. Probation has a really unique role within the community and within the state. We have the offenders and the youth that we are in charge of, and part of it is we are looking at the rehabilitation side of everything. There's also the enforcement side of what we do also, but it really gives us an opportunity to work with the youth, work with the families and all of our community partners to make sure that these individuals are getting the proper programming and the proper treatment so they can be better individuals within. Having the youth in our facility going through the programming really is a benefit to the community. What we're trying to do overall is change behavior, changing their behavior that they had prior to being in our institutions, and really reducing recidivism so they don't end up in our system or the adult system.
Probation is the go-to agency within the criminal justice system. Whichever agency needs or requires assistance, they can come to us, and we have some form of our profession that touches them. The courts, other law enforcement, social services. We work with all of them, and all of them come through us at one point in time or another. We're the key. Realignment for juveniles began, I was the chief of probation in Colusa County. At that point in time, we did not have any programs. We had no ability to do anything other than supervise. Once SB 81 was implemented and we received the funding, I was able to place programs into the schools, interventions, boys council, girls circles. And within a year's period of time, we cut our supervised population by 30%. As I understand it now, Colusa has almost cut their supervised population from 145 when I started there and growing down to 25 at this point in time. the impact upon the lives of those young people that we have not brought into this system is amazing. Approximately 25 years ago, when I was a new probation officer in Plumas County, a young man committed a minor crime. It was a shoplifting. And at that time, if you committed a crime of that nature, you were placed on probation. Well, at that time, there were limited options of how to deal with a young person. And the young man worked his way through all of our limited services very quickly. We then placed him in a group home. He failed the group home system. So for a very, very tiny crime, I placed this young man in CYA, kid prison. Today, that young man would not even enter our program. That young man would be deferred back to his parents and to the community to deal with what would be probably an oppositional defiant behavior, and we would not criminalize that youth. What I'm most proud about in Butte County is the fact that we have implemented the Strengthening Families program that probation is facilitating. We're one of the only, if not the only, probation department to facilitate this program. It is evidence-based, and we bring families together, the children that have committed a crime and the family members, and we work with them. These are high-need, low-risk families, youth, that if they were to get into our system are very difficult to help exit. By working with the family and working with the child over a 14-week period, we're able to divert them out of the system and strengthen the family bond. We have been recognized nationally for this program, and it's a wonderful effort from my staff. People should attend the conference so that they can reflect upon all the successes we've had, and we can share our ideas, and we can look to see how we can do a better job. We will only get better at our profession as we share ideas and work together as a team.
Gave us resources to the local counties, and with those resources we were able to do different things and kind of re-examine what we were doing. Before, our option was, when a kid got to a certain level, they'd go to the state, and now that we said, okay, well, what can we do locally to improve ourselves? And what it really opened up to is a lot of collaborations with other partners. I think we kind of looked inside and said, we can't do this alone. Let's reach out to other partners and do different things. And by doing that, we've now been able to re-examine what we do different processes, and now we can see we made a lot more progress because of that. There's several programs that we do now that we didn't do before Juvenile Realignment. One such example is our juvenile program called Bridges Academy. And this is a collaborative with mental health professionals, the superintendent of schools, and the probation department. And we focus on the people who are coming out of our commitment programs. And so before, a lot of times we'd have good programs inside the commitment programs, but when they got back out into the community, they'd kind of revert back into that old cycle. So what this says, when they get out, they go to the Bridges Academy, which they get their schooling there, they get their mental health there, and their probation officers are there on site. And so it's kind of our wraparound services, and we never had something like that before realignment. And we've seen the outcomes of those type of programs. It's greatly improved, and it's a great feeling when you go to those graduations and you see the success stories of these kids of where they were, and now that they have goals and they want to improve themselves, and that's really what our job is all about. The type of outcomes that we strive for in probation is to reduce recidivism. So we break that cycle of reoffending, and we've seen that over and over again in the criminal justice system. And there's certain things that we know work, these evidence-based practices, and that's another thing that we've incorporated into all the different programs that we do. So if we do these programs, we reduce recidivism, it obviously is going to help the community, there's less victimization, but what really touches me is when you see the individual offender and they've changed their life around and now they have a goal. And that, although you can have the statistical data, which is important to track, to me that's what really touches me and gives me hope for the future, because we are making those impact in those individual kids. Yeah, we always talk about, I try to strive accountability and opportunity, and that's kind of the dual roles of a probation officer. And that we have to hold people accountable, that's our mission, but we also have to provide opportunity. It's not, you can't expect somebody who's been in trouble to all of a sudden say, these are the new rules, you no longer get in trouble. You know, you have to give them the skills to do that. And that's what I think I'm most pleased with, is that our staff is going out there and we're giving these kids and these families the tools to improve. So not only is it we're saying improve, we're going to show you how to do that, and we're going to be in the same boat with you, and we want you to succeed. Why I think the conference is so important is, first of all, it lets people know what we're doing, so people can get that word out. We're doing a lot of good things. It also is a chance to see what other counties are doing, and maybe they're doing something there that you can bring back to your county. And the third thing is to get those collaborative partners involved. So it's not just, like I said earlier, not just about probation. It's about all the different disciplines in the county working together to reach our goal. Probation is really unique in the criminal justice system because of the different hats we have to wear. Talk about accountability and opportunity, because part of this, we are a law enforcement officer. We have to make sure people are following the laws and their terms of their probation. But the other half is that opportunity half. And so we have to give people the skills and the opportunity to succeed. So I think that's very unique in the criminal justice system, to have to wear both those roles and know when to play one and when to play the other. But that's what makes a successful probation officer.
I think that juvenile realignment was so important to criminal justice in California because it provided the much needed resources for counties to help handle some of the issues that we're having with juvenile delinquency. Especially in smaller counties like mine, the juvenile realignment funds really provided some great resources that we didn't ever have before. And in small counties, since programs are difficult at times, we don't have the complete program. We're able to build a program with those funds.
I think what was most important was keeping local control, giving control back to the local jurisdiction so they could handle the youth a little bit better in the communities, and keeping the kids in our own communities, I think, close to the parents, close to families, what I like most about juvenile realignment.
All right.
Contra Costa, with juvenile realignment dollars, we were able to keep kids local. Like I said before, we were able to institute a couple treatment programs, one for girls and one for boys. We were able to use more cognitive behavioral therapy and just kind of run the program we think best suits the kids from Contra Costa County, which I think is better results. Well, better results would be fewer kids coming into custody. It was a result of our juvenile hall population is down. So we think that's better results. Also just better interaction with family members, hopefully, using some of the tools that we've used and taught them to take them out in the community and use that and apply them. I think what's most proud is how we treat individuals at youth and juvenile hall, changing our behavioral management system to be more positive instead of negative, more strength-based. To interact and involve parents and family members when they reunify with them is something we hadn't always done. So I think that's what they're most proud of, taking the family members' points of views as well as the youth points of views to figure how we could reintegrate them back into community.
Wonderful.
I think what makes probation unique is that we're able to do a lot of different things. We have a lot of different skill sets that maybe some other agencies don't have. So there is the compassion component, there's the enforcement component, and we're able to do it all, and I think we do it all well. And you need all those things when you're working with youth. You need to be able to be reasonable with them, compassionate with them, be open-minded, be progressive thinking, and I think that's what probation is, and that's what we do. someone should attend the conference. You can learn from other counties, what other people have done, their successes, their failures, so you can learn from that. I think there's going to be a lot of examples, a lot of different strategies that people utilize, and that gives people from different counties the opportunity to see what other people have done. Juvenile realignment obviously was before adult realignment. I think we've had success with that, and that's what led to adult realignment. So I think it's just good to hear, to celebrate the 10 years of the probation has done and the good work that we continue.
The most important parts of what realignment did for probation departments is it gave us the resources to be able to provide the services that we've always known that these youth and their families need, but we haven't always been able to do it. And through realignment, we were able to put some of those practices that we knew would work if we could just do them into existence. We were able to get those programs up and running, and we were able to demonstrate that when you do those kinds of programs, you can make a big impact not only on your community safety, but on the lives of these children and their families. I think the biggest change that we saw in Napa County with the realignment was the ability to open our evening reporting center for youth. Everyone knows that juvenile crime primarily occurs between the hours of 3 and 7. That's a high-risk period for youth. And so by having a program during those hours, we have been able to demonstrate that when you give the youth the type of program they need, give them new skills, new ways of behaving, their behavior can start to change, and we've actually been able to see those youth leave the criminal justice system, go on to productive lives, get out of the criminal justice system as juveniles, and never enter the adult criminal justice system. We also saw a huge reduction in the number of youth that were actually even on probation. Prior to realignment, we in Napa County had about 750 youth on probation, and at our last count last month, we, for the first time that anyone can remember, we are under 200 youth on probation. The thing that makes me the most proud, and what I say almost every day when I go to work, the reason I go to work every day is because of the staff. I have staff that are dedicated and truly believe that every child has the ability to turn their lives around. They've made a mistake, they've come into the criminal justice system, but that doesn't define who they are. And staff work diligently to help that youth meet their full potential. And sometimes that means working very closely with the family and helping the family also meet their potential. And other times it's helping that youth figure out what the next step is going to be if the family isn't going to be the one that's going to be there for them. I believe that people should attend the Decade of Progress Conference because they're going to learn that probation has been actively engaged in community safety during this time through the process of helping our young people become productive members of our communities. You know, they're our future. And if we don't put time and energy into them and help them learn the skills they need to be successful, we are failing them. And through what we have learned and what people will learn by coming to this conference are all the different ways that we are successful and these youth have been successful and moved out of the system and now become some of our leaders in our community. I think probation is unique in the criminal justice system because of the many hats we wear. We start out looking at this youth through the lens of the court, and we're giving the court information to help them come up with the best decisions that a judge can make in making what that youth needs to do through their terms and conditions. And then we move into the supervision of that youth, and we're really, again, looking at that individual and the needs of that particular person. We're not looking at a group and saying everybody should have the same thing. Probation has the ability to have a probation officer assigned to one child whose interests we are looking for And the next child may have different interests, different skills, different abilities. And I think that the fact that probation officers have the ability to look at each person individually and make a different plan for each one of them is what makes us unique and different.
So juvenile realignment was very important because it was the first time the state of California really invested in juvenile probation in the state of California. And what they did was they gave money to the counties and said to the counties, you put together a plan that's unique for your county and you can spend the money whatever way you think is best to spend that money. And interesting enough that most counties spent that money in prevention and intervention type services and not in locking kids up. And really that was the first time that we had money to spend for those type of services, because those are the front end services and those are the ones that usually get cut when funding is tight. So we had state money and it was basically priming the pump to set things moving forward to rehabilitate and reform the juvenile justice system. So one of the things that I'm most proud of is we have a program where we go out into the schools and we're working with kids in the schools before they're even in the justice system. So they're identified by school administrators as being kids that are at risk of entering the juvenile justice system. And we're providing a comprehensive service of counseling, classroom work, all kinds of different things to keep them out of the system. And we've had a highly successful rate of kids not going into the system that completed this program. And by putting that money into the front end, we're saving tons of money on the back end. Well, I'd like people to attend the conference because it's going to be a chance to look inside the juvenile justice system. The juvenile justice system for many people is mysterious because it's a closed court system, confidentiality with the kids, but we're going to tell the story of what are all the great things that have been happening in California over the last 10 years to reform the juvenile justice system and how probation has been the leader in that reform. And we're also going to talk about where we go in the future. So if you're interested in kids and want to make a difference in your community, come to this conference, learn about the juvenile justice system, learn about the great things we're doing, and then take that back home to your community to make the changes that are needed.
What makes probation unique in the criminal justice system is our objectivity and also our belief in redemption and the belief that people can change. Juvenile realignment was important. It really changed a lot of our options in the way that we perceive how we work with youths and their families. I remember a time that it was standard practice throughout the state for us to do kind of this 30 days in juvenile hall, 60 days in juvenile hall, 90 days in juvenile hall, and then it was placement or a camp, and then that was followed by California Youth Authority. And we would say that, we had exhausted all local options. With realignment, I think it finally put a close to that, to where we were left to work with people locally and to make sure that we were doing as much as we could with their families. Because of SB 81, we were able to simply do more with their families and to actually make the families the focus. It was no longer about just having accountability on the kids and hoping that they were able to make better decisions, but it was about taking a more holistic view of what the kids' lives look like and understanding that we couldn't just send them away and then hope to return them better off than they were before they left. It was a matter of repairing and restoring their family systems. In Calaveras, I'm mostly proud of the fact that we really go above and beyond to build those organic family systems around the kid. And we have kids that come to us that really have very, very damaged family systems. And I think, you know, in the early 2000s, late 90s, we would have been sending these kids away and saying there's nothing for them here. And now it's a matter of, you know, even if the people around them are far from perfect, it's what they have, and we need to work on restoring that system. And so it is more difficult work in some ways, but it's more focused on long-term success rather than short-term compliance. And so I'm proud of Calaveras County because I think we've made a full transition there to really be focused on long-term outcomes for these kids, and in being able to withstand some of the short-term bumps in the roads, to know that long-term these kids are going to be better off when we spend the money locally and get them the services they need while they're with their family, even if that means tolerating some delinquency issues along the way. I hope people will attend the conference. I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity for us to look past, present, and future at where we've been, where we are, and that we still have a long ways to go. Really proud of efforts throughout the state. It's amazing to hear the reduction in incarceration numbers as well as placement numbers, and think of how much more meaningful this work is to our officers now in keeping the kids with their families.
Juvenile realignment has been incredibly important for juvenile justice in San Francisco because it has forced us to look at how we serve young people in a different way. It has provided us with an opportunity to maximize the use of community-based resources to keep young people local and to provide them with opportunities to address the risk factors that contributed to their delinquency in the first place and put them in a position to be successful for the future. So realignment has helped San Francisco to expand upon what has been a vision for our county for many, many years prior to SB 81. A recognition that sending young people to large state institutions was really not the best way to approach the concerns that we had about public safety. Not only did those young people come back and often recidivate within a short period of time, but it separated families, it disrupted networks that young people had that were positive, and it really provided an opportunity for kids to learn some bad habits while they were in the institutions. And so for a long time, San Francisco made the decision that only those young people who really, really needed to be in those institutions, who posed the most significant public safety risk, were the young people that would be committed to the Division of Juvenile Justice. And what we've been able to do with the Youthful Offender Block Grant funds that were allocated to our county as a result of SB 81 was to build more capacity at the local level to better serve those young people who are staying in our community and benefiting from the programs that we have in our Log Cabin Ranch facility, where we were able to transform the way we work with young people, smaller communities, therapeutic programming, vocational education, and providing young people with opportunities to recover their credits and to graduate from high school. And those are things that I don't think we would have done as successfully without the added benefit of those programs and services that came from the Youthful Offender Block Grant. I am most proud of the fact that our staff recognize that they not only have an obligation to work with families, but that they learn from families, that they value the relationships that they have with the families with whom we work, and that there is this embrace of our community-based organizations and the services that they provide, that there truly is a system of care in San Francisco that is multifaceted, that is multidisciplined, and recognizes that there are true opportunities when we work together to achieve the best outcomes for young people in our system. And that is something that I'm incredibly proud of. And I think that paradigm shift to a focus on collaborative efforts, partnership, bringing families into the process, making sure that they have a voice and that they get to contribute to the choices around case plans, around the priorities that we develop for them. That's something that is incredibly noteworthy and something that our county values and is incredibly proud of. California is a leader in juvenile justice, and the reform efforts that came about as a result of SB 81 really positioned our state to make an incredible impact on young people in our system. To have a state system that has gone from over 10,000 young people in custody to barely 600 today is something incredibly remarkable. And if you want to know more about why that's so important, coming to this conference on a decade of progress is an excellent way to achieve that goal. And so I'm really excited, and I urge you to participate and to attend, because a decade of progress is something you can replicate in your jurisdiction and anywhere else in the state. I'm really proud of probation as an industry. I've been in this profession for almost 30 years now. And I'm proud of the fact that we value our opportunity to work directly with families. In probation, we often talk about the many hats that we wear. And those hats can have us serving as a mentor or a counselor, a disciplinarian, a teacher, a number of jobs and responsibilities that we have. And as a result of wearing all of those many hats, we really get to see various sides of our young people. And we get to work with them in a lot of different capacities. And I think that probation as a profession is one that recognizes our obligation not only to public safety, but our obligation to help young people thrive and to be successful in our communities so that they can, in fact, become the healthy, productive members of our community and the future leaders of our community that we know that they can become.
I think probation's unique because we do something that no other agency does. Not only are we law enforcement and we protect the safety of the community, we also serve our clients and help them change their attitudes, values, and beliefs through behavior change. And we provide them tools so that they can be successful and make better decisions in their lives.
I have a unique perspective.
So prior to the implementation of juvenile realignment, I think that counties didn't look to themselves for a lot of the solutions. They turned to the state to handle some of our more challenging youth. And with the implementation of realignment, we were able to really rise to the occasion and look within and build better programs and services and have the resources to do that so that we could serve our youth while still protecting the public and making sure that our communities were safe. So one of the programs that we put in place with our SB 81 funds was the development of our Camp Peterson program. And this is a program that I'm very excited for. It's a year-long program where youth reside with us. We do a ton of evidence-based programs and practices. We do a variety of risk assessments. They're able to actually grow and learn new ways to respond to high-risk situations. And as they progress through the program, they actually earn home passes where we start working on reunification with their family in small dosages so that they can learn how to respond to the challenges in the community for just a weekend at a time, and then come back to us and we debrief those situations. So if they were faced with anything that they didn't quite know how to respond, we could go ahead and give them some skills and tools so that when they return they can go ahead and implement those. This program has a camp council. We work with a youth build program, so we give them job skills and training, and we really assess and try and meet all of their different needs and work with the families so that when they leave our care and they go back into the community, they can be successful and transition back into the community with skills and tools that they didn't have at their disposal. So I'm most proud of my staff for the way they interact, and all of our staff are trained in effective practices for correctional supervision, which is EPICS, and motivational interviewing. And when I see them interacting with their clients, they're actually having that rapport with them. They're talking through real issues. They're giving them real solutions. All of my staff are trained in facilitating some form of evidence-based practices, a certain curriculum, and so they use those skills not just in that formal group setting, but in their daily interactions. And so when I can see them be a resource for our youth and their families and to really be engaged with them and helping them through the issues that they're facing, it makes me very proud because they are really balancing their roles. So everyone should come to the Decade of Progress Conference because you are going to hear about the fabulous work that probation has done in the last 10 years and how we rose to the challenge that the state thrust upon us and how we excelled, I think, our expectations and even the state's expectations at serving our youth, reducing crime, making sure our communities are safe, and really being able to serve our youth in a different and better way than we did prior to realignment. So you're going to have a great list of speakers. You're going to hear about fabulous programs that are up and down the state, and you're going to get to hear from some of our youth too and how they've experienced the success of probation services.
Probation takes both a data-driven approach, but it takes a data-driven, compassionate approach. And I think in law enforcement, that's unique. We're focused on behavior change as opposed to behavior interruption. You know, it's funny because sometimes practice follows the money, and when the money began influencing probation, we began looking at our kids differently. So when I entered the business 20 plus years ago, it really was about supervision of youth and protecting the community. And the money helped us reformulate our focus. And our focus became all about how do we enhance the lives of kids, not just how do we protect the community, but how do we take the youth that we're responsible for and build better lives for them. And I think we have spent the last decade really honing that skill and becoming much better practitioners in helping kids and their families. And as we've seen through decreased crime rates in the juvenile justice arena across the nation and here in California and in each of our jurisdictions, focusing on kids and families has really been the type of thing that's made that possible. You know, when I think about how business has changed, I don't think about an individual anecdote. I really think about how each deputy probation officer in our organization, from those that work in the field with families in the community to all of my deputies that are in the institutions, working with kids day in and day out about their issues and toward their behavior change. Really, SB 81 was one of those things that drove that refocus, that caused probation officers to rethink their jobs and realize that they were change agents more so than supervision officers. And they began to focus on the elements of change and the relationship development with youth and their families, and the fact that probation officers could be a driving force behind improving public safety through changing behaviors. one of the things that made me most proud as a chief probation officer was giving my staff the opportunity to put down in writing what it was that they really focus on when it comes to their jobs. And the number one thing that they focus on was being compassionate servants. And they really see themselves as that. They see themselves as change makers, but they see that the way that they have the most effect on a family and on a kid is through the relationship that they develop, and they develop those relationships through trust and compassion. And to me, that speaks volumes of who we are as an industry and who we are as individuals. I think one of the primary reasons that anybody should attend the conference is because you are going to see inspirational change. You're going to see the way an industry can reinvent itself over a short period of time and make a massive difference to the community, make a massive difference to individuals, and what the potential is in the future for more change, both in the juvenile justice arena and the adult justice arena.
So probation is more about focusing on arresting the behavior than the body. So frontline law enforcement, their job primarily is to disrupt criminal activity through arrest, and corrections is through incarceration. That's not probation's function. Probation's function is to try to find the opportunity on the front end, at the earliest possible opportunity, to change behavior, arrest behavior, solve problems, work with the family to try to keep people from heading down the road of incarceration. Now, certainly some people need to be incarcerated, and probation's not afraid of doing that, but they see their purpose much deeper and much broader than, say, a frontline law enforcement officer. Well, I have a unique perspective because I came from California Department of Corrections when realignment began. Mm-hmm. And so I had the opportunity to see what had happened in the juvenile justice system of the state of California. It had ballooned to an unmanageable level. The kids weren't getting rehabilitated to the degree that they should have, and the staff, frankly, weren't safe because of the crowding conditions. And so rather than build more state juvenile facilities, rather than seek to incarcerate more people, the counties and the state got together and said, we can do this better and we can do it smarter. Thus came along Juvenile Realignment, where the focus was to try to keep the youth home, close to home, where the families are, where the county support network is, rather than disrupting them and putting them into the state system, which really changes the trajectory of their lives in a negative way. It was an amazing, amazing idea that actually came to fruition. It worked. I think math will tell the story about why realignment worked and why everybody should be so proud. So when it started, there were roughly 10,000 youthful offenders in the state system. Now there are less than 600 to 700, so that's a reduction of over 9,000. If the idea was just to incarcerate them at the local level, then of course LA County would have 3,000 more people today in custody than it did 10 years ago. But that's not what happened. In LA County, what happened? At the same time, LA County had roughly 4,500 kids in custody in the halls and the camps in Los Angeles County. Now, if you added the 3,000 from the state, you would think, oh my gosh, LA County would have 7,500 kids in custody. It's not where LA County is. We have less than 1,200 kids in our custody today. And crime rates for juveniles are down. So when you think about an idea that people took a chance on, it got funded, creative leaders stepped forward and said, don't be afraid, we've got this handled. It worked. The legislature should be proud, the state system should be proud, counties should be proud. It's not just probation, it's the courts, it's the DAs, it's the health community, it's the substance community, it's the schools. We have a lot to celebrate in this lane.
I think juvenile realignment was really important for the juvenile justice system here in California because it really gave us an opportunity to bring our kids back local and think about things from a more local perspective. I think we traditionally probably look to the state more for those more complex issues we have with children, particularly kids who had maybe difficult backgrounds. What realignment did for us, it gave us an opportunity to build more homegrown solutions, both in our halls and outside of our halls as well. And it also really laid the roots for preventative work that I think we didn't do a really good job of beforehand. So in San Mateo County, we've been able to accomplish a lot with opportunities that juvenile realignment provided for us. Most notably is the opportunity to really advance evidence-based practices both inside of our hall and in the community. We have wonderful programs that I think from the seed money that came from realignment really has blossomed now into these really diverse programs that we work really closely with our partners on as well. That really benefit the kids in a much broader perspective. It also extends to families, many of which that wouldn't have had opportunities for advanced counseling services and treatments that they wouldn't have had before. As a chief, I'm most proud of my staff's ability to work with the kids and their families in a very collaborative way with our other system partners. One of the many things I think that makes San Mateo County unique is that we have a very genuine collaborative spirit. And so we understand that oftentimes you can over-inundate families with too many people trying to do right by them. And so I want to send you to a parenting program. Somebody else wants to send you to a parenting program. What we've really done a really great job of is that we've worked together to not only pool our resources, but to make things easier for families. And so I'm very proud of that. I mean, I know how difficult it is for families to, position themselves to receive services, let alone to then actually see it operationalized in the community. So I have a lot of pride with that. I think it's really important for people to come to this conference because even in 2017, I think so much about our work is either not understood or misunderstood. And I think this conference will give people an opportunity to see all the wonderful things that we have done since Juvenile Realignment and, quite frankly, see the potential of what more we can do. There are going to be great programs on display that many of us may look to and hope to replicate in our own spaces. And I think it's going to be extremely encouraging to see young people who have taken these opportunities, done well, and really will set the bar for what we hope to see for all of our families. I think it's an opportunity for education, but it's also an opportunity for inspiration.
I think Juvenile Justice Realignment, the first thing that comes to mind is it places value back on the youth and their families. And I think anytime we get an opportunity to address criminal behavior with our youth at the same time addressing family dynamics, it's always going to lead to success. And I feel that Juvenile Realignment really helped us do that. I think SB $81 helped us create more resources through Friday Night Live. We were able to partner with more community-based organizations and share some of the responsibilities, use some of their strengths and their resources coupled with ours, helped us create more programming for the youth that we're serving. What I'm most proud of in Yuba County Probation with our juvenile unit is their integrity they have towards the youth that we serve, the families that we serve. Every family, every youth has a level of dignity that we want to expose, make them feel good about themselves. Well, I think probation as a whole, you get into probation because you want to make a change, and that's the direct reason why we get in the probation field, is because we do believe that people can change and that probation is the most instrumental part
of initiating that change in families and in the youth that we serve. You should attend the Juvenile Justice Realignment Conference, because anytime we get an opportunity to celebrate success, we should do that. And I think legislation and government got it right by wanting to realign what we're doing with our juveniles. And I think if you get the opportunity to come and help celebrate, it's only going to expand to better things in the future.
Probation is unique in criminal justice because we're the can-do people. Whatever's thrown at us, whatever comes our way, we handle, and we do it well. We're the most sought-after group that can make a difference in people's lives on the fly with changing laws, statutes, and everything coming our way. Juvenile realignment was critical in California. As we know, in 1996, a Princeton professor said, we're going to have super predators on the street. We're going to have these children out of control. So California responded, built more youth prisons. We had kids in cages in youth prison in classrooms. We knew that was the wrong thing to do, but there wasn't a solution until realignment came about, and who they call upon but probation to help that. We know it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, and that came from Frederick Douglass. Probation took this on, and we have been building strong children. SB 81 really helped most counties in California, and especially in Solano County, where we didn't have a lot of resources to start. So we developed programs and services. We know that we have programs to divert kids out and provide them services, because the kids diverted out do a lot better than those that actually stay in the system. But the really hardcore youth that really needed our attention and services, we had open programs. And it's interesting because we do thinking for change for kids. And we had one kid that we have in a program that we let out to go to work, and we helped him find a job, and he's doing phenomenal. But he works in a grocery store. And in that store, he saw somebody shoplifting. Now, this is a hardcore kid that's been charged with robberies, burglaries. And he did the thinking for change, and he said, this isn't right. So he told the lady to put back what she had stolen. And she told him to drop dead. And he said, if you don't put that back, I'm calling the police. That's phenomenal for one of our kids to say. And it just shows how much they have changed through programs that we have given and services, where he did the thinking report and said, this isn't right, and I'm going to do something about it. What I'm most proud about in Solano is we make a difference. We divert out kids that don't need to be in the system anymore. We stop taking kids that, I looked at a survey from 1973, we had kids for incorrigibility, for smoking, for truancy, all in our juvenile hall. We stopped taking those kids. We now have the serious kids that need to be in there, and we don't deal with the kids that don't. And I think we have been really selective, and the ones that are left, we wrap our arms around with programs and services to help make a difference. People should attend the Decade of Progress conference because adult realignment has overshadowed juvenile realignment. But if you really look at juvenile realignment, probation has been the linchpin in making a difference. We have gotten detention rates down, we have made a difference, and this is eventually what adult realignment will turn into. So it is almost a preview of what's going to happen in the future for our adult system, but many of us don't know about that, and this program is going to highlight that. It's going to show the accomplishments and show the road that we're taking for the future.
Realignment provided us resources to help expand our wraparound program, which is an alternative to out-of-home placement program. So individuals who are, or youth who are at imminent risk of out-of-home placement, group home care, ranch camp, or possibly even DJJ, we had limited number of slots for those intensive programs that we partnered with our mental health partners and community-based programs. And so this allowed us to expand those slots. And we call those the deep end, youth in the deep end of our system. And it really allowed us to continue to really reduce the number of kids going to out-of-home placement and ranch camps and continue our low commitment to DJJ through expanding local capacity. So the funding's helped support an evening center program that we have specifically in the south of our county, which is primarily Latino youth. We're seeing a disproportionate number of those youth going into the system, into out-of-home placement. So these resources also helped us address the racial and ethnic disparities that continue to be challenging. But we've had a lot of success through engaging our community, our criminal justice partners, and some technical assistant experts to help us. Our staff are very compassionate, have empathy. Many of them are able to walk a mile in the shoes of the youth and family. I look for staff that come from our community, that have experience with our community, that reflect the community. And I'm just so proud that they really are aligned with our vision and mission of a safe community for us, a thriving community. And the importance of engaging youth and families, having the youth and family voice in their choice. I think that's critical, and my staff really have an excellent way to engage and have a rapport with their youth and families. And to the degree they can, we are part of this system, but I believe our community, our clients, probationers and families do trust us, respect what we're doing, because we work in partnership with them. It's less about telling them what they need to do, but really being a partner with them.
One of the advantages of Juvenile Justice Realignment has been that we've been able to reduce our juvenile hall recommits. So kids are not coming back to the juvenile hall like they used to. That's down 70% since Juvenile Realignment started. But also juvenile citations have gone down over the last 10 years, down 50%. So we're finding that kids not only are not coming back to the juvenile hall after getting the services either in the juvenile hall or prior, but they're also getting the services prior to going to the juvenile hall, which is producing less citations. Well, an example of how we're able to utilize the funds is through JJCPA funds, which is we have now a truancy officer that's out there in the field who's actually working with the schools. We also have school resource officers that we're using that. But I think what's big important for Nevada County has been we have a youth mentorship program in Nevada County, which all of our kids who come through the citation calendar actually are referred to the youth mentorship program for a certain amount of program time. And we're finding that program to show great results and great outcomes, and those kids are not continuing on further into the justice system. The one thing that makes me proud working with my officers, working with the youth and my group supervisors in the juvenile hall, is that they have bought into best practices. And we now are data driven. We are following the money. We're following the data that is showing us what the best outcomes. So we're providing certain services, whether it be in the community or in the juvenile hall, that is showing positive outcomes. And our probation officers and our group supervisors are actually, they work much harder than they used to. And it's a much more difficult job than it was 10 years ago. It used to be very easy to just send kids away, and now we're working with them and the families and their younger siblings to make sure we prevent future involvement in the system. I think what makes probation unique is we're very holistic, and we deal with the child as a whole, and not just the child, but again, the family. We deal with the family. So we deal with vocational needs and educational needs, but again, we also help the parents out. We will provide resources for the parents and the siblings that are involved in that family dynamic that will actually help the family. I believe why probation is unique in the criminal justice system is because I do believe that probation is the nucleus to the criminal justice system. No other agency or department touches all other agencies involved, whether it be local law enforcement, the courts, district attorneys, public defenders, and everybody. And so that's why I believe probation is the leading force in the criminal justice system, because we're there for the actual families and the children we work with. The reason why I believe people should come to the Juvenile Realignment Conference is I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised at how probation is actually very preventative, probably much more preventative than they thought they were. Many people think of probation as we hold children and adults accountable, but actually I think what they're going to find there is that all the services we've put together through the juvenile realignment funds that we've received has been preventative, and we prevent future issues that with the minors and the families that we deal with.
Probation is unique because we are, I think it's been said before, but we're the linchpin of the system. We touch so many areas of the system, so many areas of the system come through our departments. We're the ones that are the experts, the leaders. We're the first ones to use evidence-based programs in dealing with individuals. Ultimately, we're the piece of the system that without us, it would just break. It was important because I think we all took a look at the system and realized we have a lot of juveniles, a lot of kids locked up, and there was a better way to deal with them. We found those ways to deal with them through those evidence-based programs, through those evidence-based practices. We determined and really looked at ourselves as how we can better serve these kids, their families, and ultimately the funding that came to us, to the locals, allowed us to secure and have the resources in place to deal with these individuals. We're a small county, so we're not heavy users of the state system as far as the Division of Juvenile Justice. But when we do send kids there, there's a reason and a purpose behind it. And what we did was took a twofold approach to how we utilize those funds. First, we dealt with kids on the front end. We looked at truancy and looked at that as an early sign of problems and things to come. But ultimately, on the back end, we have had a juvenile, and it was fairly recent, that went to DJJ. And doing parole supervision on that case for an offender that committed a rape, molested his two younger siblings, it was quite a challenge in prepping for that individual to return to our community. Ultimately, we started doing early meetings with that individual, knowing that he was going to be coming out on parole while he was still in the institution. He came out, we had a program in place, had housing in place, even secured employment, and that juvenile did not commit a new law violation while on supervision, did not violate his supervision, and ultimately terminated from our caseload, and to my knowledge hasn't committed an offense since. We look at the whole picture, the family, the school, supportive pieces in place that could have a positive impact on the case or on the juvenile themselves. So it's really a holistic approach that we take in Edgewater County. It's also looking at the system and where that juvenile best fits into the system, and ultimately trying to deal with the case. I think it's important for people to attend because it's going to give those attendees a look at where we were, a look at where we are, and a look at where we're going.
Juvenile realignment for the state of California is very important because as a former police chief, I saw the youth in the community and how they were going through the process in the system. And coming to probation, I see how we're able to service and help not only the youth, but the families as well, to have the safer communities. We have done a number of things here in San Diego, particularly in juvenile justice system, with the realignment funding, because we're able to put that back into the community and back into our youth. For example, we went from 1-inch mattresses to 6-inch mattresses for the youth. The youth were complaining they were having bad aches and they couldn't sleep well at night. So we changed that, and now they're having a good night's rest so they can do well in school and have better behaviors. When I started in San Diego, there were over 400 youth in custody. Today we have 321 in custody. We're doing a lot more in the community. And what we're doing with the realignment funds is providing opportunity for the youth to prepare for the future when they do come out. For example, we have a running club where we started half a dozen kids being able to go out and run in the community, have marathons, 5Ks, for example. But I was told that couldn't happen because to get the youth out, they're going to run away, they're going to escape. And we tried it, and now it's growing tremendously. Not only the boys, we got over a dozen boys running. These are why are you kids that are in here that normally would have gone to the state, are here in San Diego County, and now they participate in the community. Now we have girls. Girls say, what about us? So last weekend when we took boys on a run, 11 girls participated. So now the boys and the girls are seeing that. And it's a positive outcome because it teaches them collaboration, it teaches them teamwork, but also it gives them a sense of accomplishment. When I speak to the youth and I see their eyes light up of having accomplished a 5K, one girl for the first time ever did a half marathon, and now other boys want to do the half marathon as well. So it's exciting to see that part of it, as well as the educational piece. We're doing vocational as well as community college. We have online courses for those youth who have graduated from high school, and some of them graduated from high school while in custody, and now they're taking online classes with our local community colleges. We have tremendous universities here in San Diego. Now they're affording that opportunity. If our youth were out, let's say in the state, they wouldn't have access to that opportunity here in San Diego. So that's a great opportunity for us. Not only that, but our staff, all of our staff, both our partners, as well as our probation officers, are doing a tremendous job with our youth, making sure that they're successful in the programs. What makes me more proud of our department, how they work with the youth and the families, is how our officers interact with the youth. For example, another thing we did in San Diego is that we brought in fruit bowls during the day rooms. Kids would complain about being hungry between meals. Now they have access to fruit. And that came from the officers that said, let's give that a try. Having water balloon therapy for the youth really changed the relationship between the youth and the officers. One officer wrote to me and said that the kids are acting like kids. That's why they are, they're kids still. And they were all working together. And the other thing is we're looking at taking a group of youth to the Miramar Air Show so they can see this for the first time. So we have a lot of ideas that we're trying to do with the community partners, in the community, with their youth and their families. But our officers have been tremendous. They've been very supportive of a lot of the initiatives that we're doing. Because many of the initiatives came from the officers, not my ideas.